and welcome to DataZoom's Data Leadership, Wisdom and Insight series. My name is Samir Sharma and I will be your host. My guest this morning is Andrew McMurtrie. Andrew is the Head of Customer Analytics and Data Science at Green Flag. Green Flag is part of the Direct Line Group. I hope you enjoy the webcast and thanks for listening in.
Hopefully the title of my job title is fairly self-explanatory, but it can cover all manner of sins. So just to summarise kind of the key parts to my role and my team within the Green Flag business. So it probably helps if I provide a little bit of business context. And then I'll go into the specifics of the role. So, yeah, Green Flag Rescue Breakdown business is part of Direct Line Group. We're sort of number 3 in market share in the rescue breakdown business in the UK, behind the names that you all probably know, AA and RAC. We're looking to grow that business within the group significantly over the next few years. It's a market that's very interesting and exciting, particularly as vehicle technology and evolves and changes, and how does a rescue breakdown operator sort of operate in that market. So it's a very interesting place to be. So, but specifically, so in order to enable that sort of that growth and support the sort of strategic direction, we obviously need to be digitally and data sort of enabled to be sort of commercially successful. So my role within that is obviously the data part of it, in terms of building out the sort of the data platform to ensure that we've got obviously access to the data that we need, but also kind of the infrastructure and the tooling and everything around that to be able to utilise data in the most effective way. So that's everything from the reporting sort of BI, traditional BI, through to kind of the data visualization, analytics, and obviously advanced analytics, machine learning. Then there's, following on from that is, as I sort of mentioned, having sort of modern advanced kind of data visualization and visual analytics, so moving away from sort of traditional MI sort of backward reporting to sort of more sort of decision-oriented analytics. So sort of guide analytics and decision sort of analytics from a visualization perspective, and then sort of the final part is obviously the data science sort of component, in terms of actually using data to develop sort of machine learning type models that can be fed back into our operational systems, to our commercial decision making, marketing, whatever it is, in terms of being able to make sort of better sort of decisions and automating a lot of sort of the decision making process. So I sort of oversee those sort of areas. We're not sort of fully fledged, fully formed in all of those, but that's my role, is to build the kind of capability over the kind of next sort of year or two, to enable us to achieve all those different objectives.
That is fantastic. Brilliant job that you've got there in terms of having to, if you could put yourself on mute, whoever's turned up. Great position that you've got. When in the insurance world, we have a lot of legacy, and we have a lot of systems that are obviously becoming outdated. I'm sorry, I'm just going to put a few people on mute. Yeah, that's great. So, what are the current challenges that you have in the insurance market, centered and focused around data? Sorry, I think I muted you there for a moment.
You did.
I did, yeah. Sorry. I'll repeat that. What are your current challenges that you've got with data in the insurance market?
So I think you sort of touched on kind of the legacy sort of technology and legacy data systems. That goes without saying is a challenge, not just from an insurance perspective. Sort of a lot of big sort of older sort of companies, enterprises will have those challenges, and we're all sort of working through them because I think we're now in that sort of position where from the CEO down, the awareness of being able to use data as an asset is obviously something that we need to be investing in. We need to be creating the sort of systems to enable that. So it's very much a sort of technology sort of side of things. But I think actually probably the most important thing for me actually is the culture. And sort of mindsets around what it means to be data literate, what it means to have use data as an asset in terms of competitive advantage. Being able to enable your talent, your people, to be able to sort of use data in the most effective way, and then also from how we actually deliver initiatives, deliver projects, to again have the it's a bit cliche, but it actually works. The agile kind of way of doing things. I don't mean just necessarily the agile methodology, although that actually is useful and we operate like that, but also just more generally sort of conceptually to be able to use take on an initiative, do it in a way that you can sort of got speed to sort of insight, speed to try things, fail fast, all those kind of good concepts. And I think that only really comes about where you've got kind of that the culture, the mindset to be able to operate that way. And that again does come from sort of the top down.
Sure.
So those are kind of the key elements and the challenges actually as well.
Yeah. No, and I can understand that where you are in terms of building out the team and so on. Just from a data science perspective, because that is a big part of what you do. And we're going to come back to team in a minute. But we work with a number of different insurance companies, and from my perspective, we see sort of three main objectives that most insurance companies have, and that's literally we could classify them as customer acquisition, retention, and managing risk. What challenges can data science help solve for you in insurance? What are you currently doing that's going to address those three, or are there other areas that you're addressing right now?
So I can address, so you said acquisition, risk, and there was one other.
The retention, customer retention.
Retention, sorry, yeah, I missed that. So sort of all of those areas, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, to flesh that out a bit more with some specific sort of examples.
Sure, that'd be great.
Retention is a really, really big thing in a highly competitive insurance market industry. So where you've got price comparison websites that allow customers to shop around. That's a great thing. So what sort of differentiates you from your competition, or what can you do to retain? So clearly in an insurance industry, prices, you're probably your biggest driver for either losing or retaining customers. But there's also a lot around lot of other kind of sort of factors around sort of customer retention. So that's where sort of data science can come into play on sort of several levels. So first of all, you want to understand which customers are most likely to leave you. So just it's classic sort of churn. It's still got a massive place to play. So sort of churn prediction. So who's at risk, and therefore what can you do to retain those customers? What are the factors that are motivating them potentially to leave? And therefore implement sort of strategies around that, and that might be around sort of more sort of pricing in a more effective way to retain sort of your higher value customers or particularly customer segments. So there's certainly a place to play.
Pricing optimization in different segments, based on price sensitivity and so on, and obviously you're factoring a lot of risk around, whether there's black boxes in cars and so on. Are they at risk of having an accident, or are they actually very, very good drivers? Are they students and so on? So that's the sort of profile that you're applying to that. Just
exactly.
And interesting for churn is not as you said, is not a new concept.
No,
it's not a new. What tools are you bringing within your area that will make it more different to many years ago when we would have churn models that typically it took a long time to crunch. They had to be tweaked more so than they are now. There was a lot more feature engineering that needed to go in. There's a lot more learning.
Yeah.
What kind of tools are you using in order to speed that process up and ensure that you're getting your insights to your business so they can make those decisions or back into your systems? What types of tools are you currently using?
So if you think of where data science has matured over the last sort of let's say 5 or so years, whereby you've got open source tools such as Python and etc. All the libraries that they now have, they accelerate a lot. What the data science team can do because of the community that's sort of built up to develop those libraries. So you're not coming from a standing start anymore.
Yeah.
Clearly, and actually, and we're sort of seeing in the market, solutions that are actually almost a bit out of the box in terms of plug your data in and it'll spit out what the model that you need. But we're not using sort of so much of those just now because I think it's sort of still fairly nascent. But but if you take sort of quote unquote the traditional kind of data science toolkit, around sort of Python or R, that it gives sort of a great sort of leg up. Now clearly, you need to have good quality data, and again, the sort of those tools allow you to certainly understand the quality of your data, and then when you sort of start to do the sort of modelling process, again using the tools for that. So we've reached that level of maturity where doing the modelling for a data science team, they're sort of more equipped for things like churn or whatever else it might be. Then you've got obviously well I've got the model, it works, it's pretty accurate. How do we sort of implement it? And that's kind of where the big challenge comes in terms of the productionization of it.
Sure.
Now, the good thing I sort of still like about churn, and everyone's going to talk about advanced machine learning and AI and all this other great stuff when it comes to sort of data science, but actually some of the basic stuff is still very, very relevant from a commercial perspective. And it might be a case of we output a list of customers at risk of leaving, we give that to a marketing department to put that into their sort of campaign management systems or whatever. And there's certainly quick and dirty ways of doing that through to sort of fully integrated ways of doing it as well. Yeah. So, we're probably at a place where we are working through sort of more the, how do we get an output that's value, even if it is in a spreadsheet that we then hand over to a marketing department, whilst in the background we're building up sort of more integrated sort of solutions.
And I think that's an important factor there around the integration automation. But equally, I think we'll go back to what you said earlier. To do all of that, you need to have a good data science team. How are you structuring your data science teams?
So coming back to the sort of the agile ways of working. So we have the data scientists themselves. We have product owners who are the interlock between the business and the data science team in terms of understanding needs and requirements, and then working with the data scientists to shape a particular piece of work and initiatives. and then obviously a sort of Scrum Master that that runs the delivery of that in sort of 2 or 3 week sprints. So, but sort of more specifically, I guess, certainly within my team, what we've sort of actively done is cultivate sort of talent internally and find sort of really good sort of analysts with good core skills around stats and maths and you know, aptitude for programming and things like that, working alongside a kind of more experienced kind of senior sort of lead sort of data scientist. So, you know, we haven't sort of actively gone out and recruited, you know, lots of PhDs and things like that because as we're coming back to what I said before around the tools are such that a really good talented analyst can pick them up under the stewardship of a, you know, an experienced data scientist. So that's kind of how, you know, I've sort of structured the team with that kind of wrapper of an agile kind of team around it.
So, and that makes sense, and I think that's a very valid point in terms of a lot of the mistakes that I've seen people make is go straight out and hire, you know, a number of PhDs and then suddenly realize 6 months later that there's little value coming from the team. And there's definitely people internally that will have the capabilities in order to even just, you know, from a data analyst point of view, to understand models and then to visualize. So I think, you know, it's a very good point you make. How are you structuring them in terms of aligning them with the business? I know you talked about a product owner. So are they function-based? Are they sitting inside the business, or are they centrally motivated? And are you cascading that out to the teams, or are you bringing product owners into your team on a project basis? How do you work within those dimensions?
So I guess from my sort of perspective, where I sit within the business. So as I said, you know, we've got a data science team within the Green Flag part of being the biggest sort of direct line group business. So we're sort of lucky in sort of some respects that we've got a sort of relatively small central data science team within the Green Flag business.
Okay.
So we can therefore service you know, multiple different sort of functions within Green Flag. So, you know, commercial operations, you know, whatever sort of teams within Green Flag. So it's sufficiently small enough to be able to do that. I think, let's say, going forward, if the Green Flag business was to grow and the data science team was to grow as well, what I would you know, the model that, you know, would look to sort of develop would be to sort of embed sort of certainly product owners into those different sort of teams, and also probably, you know, a data scientist as well. So they've got that, they'll develop that kind of business domain knowledge and expertise, but with the support of kind of the sort of central data science function from a capability, sort of consistency standards and tooling perspective. And I think that's sort of so then I'd abstract that out from a kind of direct line group wide sort of perspective is sort of the kind of the you know, emerging model as well. So, you know, you're retaining and cultivating the knowledge locally within the team. Yes. But you've got the support of kind of the sort of the centre in terms of as I said, the tooling, you know, methodology and things like that.
Yeah. So on that point then, it sounds like you've got a central team. You got your team in your business in Green Flag that's closer to the business as the users, but you've got a central team. Is the central team, are they managing the data set and providing you with the data as and when needing? Are they making sure that there's relevant data available, or is that something that you're both doing across the teams? How is that being managed? Because data from an insurance perspective, I know, can be quite difficult to get at, and then when it's transformed, there's a lot of different reference points against that data because of the amount of systems you've got. So how are you managing that data lifecycle and the lineage of data so that you can make sure that it stays valid from a central point of view, but also from your team's point of view?
So Good question, and sort of there's a different sort of ways to answer that. So
Yeah.
generally, yes, that where you've got we've got a sort of a sort of central data team that sort of manages and curates the sort of data to make it available and accessible. I guess there's as we sort of talked about sort of earlier on, sort of obviously legacy systems and things constrain, you know, that to a certain extent, but obviously we're actively working on sort of improving that. So I think certainly it makes sense to have, from, you know, in terms of the data operations sort of side of things, a team, a function that's responsible for ensuring quality and lineage and accessibility. I think, and then sort of above and beyond that, where we're heading towards, particularly when we're sort of building out platforms, thinking about sort of more modern architectures, is to connect up the silos of data and make it accessible to whoever really needs it, with a, you know, with a business need. So actually, the platform itself should enable that sort of self-serve capability, you know, versus having sort of a, you know, really big sort of central team that's crunching through and, you know, wrangling data, you know, that you're having sort of the systems, the platform with a, you know, highly sort of performant team managing it is directionally sort of where we're heading.
I'm just going to just mention this to the audience, that we're coming up onto the time where you can ask questions. So there is a chat box, so please do ask your questions. I will continue with Andrew asking the questions I've got. Just going back to team, going back to individuals, you know, I often get asked, you know, from out there in you know, conferences and so on, or from, you know, specific clients. What for you, as the head of data science at Direct Line, what makes a good data science professional?
Sorry,
and what is the one quality that you would suggest that, you know, a good data science professional has? Apart from the technical stuff, what are the other things?
So a thirst to sort of understand kind of the business, kind of the commercial sort of side of things. So before you even sort of touch a piece of data or do any sort of coding, is what's the commercial value of the business outcome we're looking to achieve, and sort of having awareness of that kind of that kind of the commerciality of things. Or, you know, and an ability to sort of want to understand that.
Of course.
And then go through all the modelling, the analysis, and all of that, and then being able to tell a story at the end of it.
Right.
So you kind of connect two bits up of the business understanding what's the commercial value we're looking to achieve here, and then being able to tell a story once you've got the output to connect that up. You know, and the middle bit is the technical sort of statistical sort of modelling, you know, sort of part of it obviously is kind of the critical thing, as you say.
Yes.
But having that kind of that commercial mindset, but not necessarily being fully formed from the outset.
Sure.
A willingness to learn and understand the kind of the commercial stuff.
For anybody hearing that, you have described a unicorn in a way that, you know, we do talk in the industry about a data science professional, but what I see is, from what you said earlier, it sounds like the data science professional is a number of people. You know,
so I think you're dead right that, you know, ideally you're operating within a team with that support around it. And it's not like, you know, you necessarily need a unicorn that's really commercially sort of aware and got huge amounts of commercial analysis and acumen. But I think having that sort of ability to understand that is really important.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then just again telling the story again in a supported way. So that's certainly my role as well. Once we get to that point we've got an outcome, how do I help shape and tell the story? But again, having that sort of ability to know and understand that, we do need to sort of tell a story here, because you need to share the outcome with non-technical audiences.
Absolutely. On the point of data teams and structuring data science professionals and aligning them with the business, there's a lot of companies who are pretty mature in terms of where they are. But for some people on the call, and for some people who will be listening to this later, what are some of the mistakes that you can help people avoid when putting data science teams together? That's the one question. But the next question is also, so when you get going with a team, what are some of the traps that people fall into that you should try to avoid? So there's two questions there.
Yeah. So in terms of the mistakes early on when you're sort of getting going, is certainly thinking that by hiring a load of data scientists that we're going to unlock billions of pounds of value in the space of a few months, and the sort of that kind of unicorn concept, that sort of, they're going to instantly find that golden nugget. Because we've got all these kind of clever, data scientists that are kind of wrangling through the data are going to find that. So I think it's an expectation thing. I think that we've recruited and building data, and the expectation is that all our data problems are solved.
Yep.
And I think that's certainly not the issue. A data scientist serves a particular sort of need in terms of creating commercial value from a say a particular idea. It's not going to resolve all your reporting and MI issues, and it's certainly not going to resolve all your actual data and data quality issues.
Yes.
And I think often I've seen an expectation. We've got these really amazing sort of data people, and they are. But to your point, they're not unicorns that are going to solve everything.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, if you haven't attended to the more data side of things, with maybe sort of from a data engineering or architecture or whatever might be, sort of more the back end sort of side of things, so the quality of output is going to be diluted, and therefore you're going to dampen expectations. So that's kind of early on when you're recruiting, building, I should say. And then once you get going, choosing the right initiatives to work on end to end. So the first thing is, have we got the right access to data? What's the value? What's the general value we're trying to achieve here? And also, we've got high-level sponsorship of what we're trying to achieve here. So you're not kind of floundering around and no one knows what you're doing, sort of thing. You've actually got someone who's sponsoring the activity. And then the final part is, can we actually make use of this? So we've developed this really great predictive model.
Yes.
Great. Let's get out there. Oh, we can't because our systems won't, can't integrate with it. So that production sort of end of things. And it might not necessarily be fully, you need this sort of proper integrated sort of solution, but you need to choose. You almost need to start with the end in mind, I guess.
Yes.
Probably what you need to be thinking about.
I agree with you, and I think that is probably one of the biggest traps. We've seen a lot of companies who have developed great algorithms, but they're sitting in sandboxes somewhere and they're not really being productionized, or not put back into the business process, or not put back into an app. So I think that's one of the biggest issues that we're currently seeing. I have some questions that have come up, so I'm just going to have a quick scan of those, and data science moving, and the factors around data science, AI, machine learning, and the buzz of deep learning and so on. How are you and your teams keeping current and keeping up with the pace of what's happening in the industry?
So through I guess a different range of sort of mechanisms. Obviously, there's a number of events, meetups, conferences and summits or whatever that allow you to sort of see what's sort of happening currently, what other companies and what other peers are doing. So that's obviously useful, but that's sort of, you've got to be selective and choose the right ones.
Sure.
But that's certainly sort of from my perspective, it gives you a little bit of reassurance that actually people are talking about deep learning, and you think, oh God, we're sort of falling behind. Actually, you go out to a conference or a meetup or wherever, they actually are facing all the same challenges.
Yeah.
But it gives you an eye on obviously what's out there, what's coming. Then obviously, just your peer networks really. I find certainly with sort of my data science teams, very, very well connected across different businesses, very, very willing to share, and there's a really strong, there tends to be quite a strong community.
Okay.
And around sharing knowledge and sharing what you're doing, obviously not without giving away commercially.
Sure. I understand that.
Technical side of things, new tools, programs, whatever it might be. So
absolutely.
So that combination of those set piece events through to using sort of networks.
So I've got three good questions. I'm going to start with Franklin's first. How do you make sales teams productive by using data or customer analytics? That's the first part of the question. I'll give you the second part of the question. Do you work with commercial teams in an operational capacity or just from a strategic decision-making perspective?
So start with the first part.
Yeah.
How do you make sales teams productive through using analytics?
Yeah. So
this is where we work really, really well and closely with sales teams in terms of bringing insights that they might not previously have had around customer segments and performance of particular products. Are particular products performing well in terms of certain demographics or regions or other kind of customer segments? So certainly around from a customer segmentation perspective, that's where it works really well. So it allows sales teams to understand the performance and resonance with customers, and therefore adapt and amend, be it the product itself or channels or marketing strategies or sales strategies or whatever, and hone and focus better, if you like.
And it sounds like, it sounds like the sales teams are working very closely with the marketing teams anyway. So is that handoff between those sales teams and marketing teams automated, or is that still very much a data-led activity, but still some kind of manual processes? And when you're breaking down those customers and segmenting, are you targeting? Are you changing messages? Are you adapting those things for specifics with what you see when the algorithm spits something out? How are you doing that? That's just I've just picked up. It's just crossed over with another question there, so it just makes sense to ask that right now.
Yeah, no, it's good. So it is probably more manual process, but I think where it works effectively, certainly in my businesses, the sales and marketing teams have a very, very tight-knit relationship, very close, work together very, very well, and they're actually I'm quite lucky. They're really amazing people actually, and really, really engaging with what we're trying to do, certainly from a data perspective. And so I won't talk specifically about the sales and marketing roles, but I'll talk about from my perspective of working on
absolutely.
So, so being able to generate the insights, present it, or it might be the model or whatever, present it through to the sales teams to analyse, understand how they can effectively use it, and then work closely with marketing team how we deploy it in marketing campaigns or whatever. So that's very a tight end-to-end relationship there. So I'm not sure if that completely answers your question, but it's actually a lot around kind of the relationships as much as the process, and it comes back to that culture and mindset where I'm lucky to have teams that are very receptive to commissioning work from us to understand sites, not being very overly protected, protective of their patch, but actually very open. So that works really well. The second part of the question was around the sort of the more operational versus strategic.
Yeah,
And
correct.
Interestingly, we're operating at the moment at a more operational level than strategic. There's obviously room we sort of do both in terms of providing kind of strategic insights for strategic kind of decision making.
Yes.
But actually, from a data science perspective, the effectiveness of data science is really in the operational sort of side of things. So, for example, we're doing some work on sort of our sales operations. So where we have conversations with customers. How can we have more effective conversations with those customers?
Right.
And therefore, it is at a much more sort of operational sort of level, which is great because that means you're much closer to the customer really and what we're doing in terms of commercial value. But absolutely from time to time we'll do some work that's kind of more on the kind of strategic insight. If you were to give me sort of what's the balance, actually it's probably more weighted towards the operational sort of side of things. And I mean operation in its broader sense, in terms of sales operations, marketing operations, or whatever else it might be. And it's through to sort of actual running the business operations as well.
Yeah. That I was about to say it was back to the beginning segment where you said you're in the middle of growing your business. So I can understand that you've got a number of different strategic objectives that have been laid out, and you need to operationalize those and understand that with data and how you're going to affect that growth or acquisition and retention strategy. So completely understandable. I'm going to move the question to something slightly different now. And this question comes from Adam. Most of the talk in the industry is about the creation of AI models, which is important but doesn't deliver value in and of itself. It's good to hear Andrew talk about deployment of these models into operational systems. He's keen to learn where you see the decision management, decision analytics space evolving in Green Flag.
Great question, thanks, Adam. So we're a 24/7, 365 days a year operation, right? And at the moment, sort of, obviously, a lot of that is run through our call centres and the amazing people in the call centres sort of serving our customers when they're broken down. So to answer the question, therefore, what can we do to enable and help those people with their day-to-day work? Move away from kind of manual processes, or trying to we've got sort of fairly old systems in terms of kind of CRM and things like that. So we're working towards how can we automate a lot of the processes and therefore help. I wouldn't necessarily say automate the decision, but provide decision support. So let's say we've got a customer with certain needs based on what they've just told us. Right? How do we, once we've understood that, what's the best outcome for that customer, and how do we sort of provide the most efficient sort of outcome that's going to meet their needs based on all the factors we know about them. So in my business, they're broken down in a certain location, they drive a certain sort of car, what do we need to do to get them moving? So therefore shortening that kind of that customer outcome and the decision around that customer journey as much as possible. So arming the person on the phone with as much sort of insight as possible to reach an outcome. And sort of, that's everything from bringing the data together through to, what's the outcome we're trying to achieve, and automating that as much as possible. So in terms of that decision management, that's something that, is critical to our business. Now, so go on.
No. I think it's a great point that you make around how you provide that data and the view of a customer on a we used to call it the single customer view. Now we call it customer 360. But it is one of the holy grails in any industry of how we're putting that back collecting it from CRM systems, which can often be very dirty in terms of data quality and so on, and then getting that into a call center agent where you've got the possibility of a woman stranded in a car in a very dark place, or there's in the middle of a forest, or I'm giving probably an extreme example, but understanding that from the analytics, and then what decisions do you make? How do you actually take that data point and then make sure that they're safe and comfortable? That's another edge, which is not really a decision-based, data-based approach. But I think there's so many different things that you probably deal with in your business from an emotive perspective. That is sometimes very difficult to always pinpoint with data, but it can be enabled by data from that perspective.
Yeah, completely right. And I absolutely see the value and the need for AI coming into play in those sort of scenarios. Well, maybe not the specific scenario you just did there, but sort of say less of an urgent or emergent sort of scenario. And I think there's probably people that are listening to this thinking, well, we've now got chatbots and a sort of contact center management now can be automated quite considerably, and I actually believe it can be as well. But it's trying to get that balance. How much of that do we send down a proper, truly sort of AI route to get all the efficiencies and then the automation? I 100% think that can be done. But there's also, as you say, the kind of the human sort of element, and then arming people with as much sort of information as quickly and efficiently as possible to help that customer in their sort of moment of need.
Of need, yeah.
So there's the two parts to it.
We've come up to the end of the but I've got one last question. If you can just what does the future of data science? What does the future look like for insurance?
I can't answer that. I think I'm going to answer this probably in a slightly different way, because I could say, well, things like chatbots and AI, and things like that will come into play a lot more from an operational perspective, and you no longer need call centers because it's all going to be sort of robots, possibly. And I think that some of that will be true. But I'm going to come up from a slightly different perspective in terms of I think the nature and the industry and the insurance market is changing, and will change, with different models of purchasing insurance, pay on demand or pay on need, or only insure what I need to, rather than one premium, one policy for a whole year. Yeah. And therefore, I think data science is going to have a big role to play in those sort of new business models.
Absolutely.
In terms of how we use the data to provide a different customer experience, and I think that's going to become increasingly important. We'll see that over the coming years.
On that note, Andrew, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show.
Likewise. It's been great.
Yeah, no, it's been a fun. I could talk all day about these challenges and topics. But I'd like to thank my audience as well for staying on and asking those questions. And just to let you know, our next guest will be Nicola Ascombe, who is the UK coach for data governance. So we're slightly going to a different subject, but from a sunny morning in London. To those people who have joined us, thank you very much, and once again, thank you, Andrew, and have a good day, everybody.
Yep, thank you.
Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.